welcome to my channel. I'm Anne and today I'm bringing you my 25 books to read in 2025. I cannot believe we are already here making end of year content. Like, this is actually crazy. But I have 25 books all stacked up here beside me that I'm going to talk about and hopefully read in 2025, because the goal is if I don't read these, I have to unhaul them, because I'm not reading any of the books that I'm putting on my TBR. I'm not reading books off my shelf, so this is a way for me to finally get these books off my shelf. So the first book that I definitely hope to get to in 2025, which should be easy because it is a collection of short stories. This is The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. And there is multiple stories in here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 stories in here, short stories. So if I just take a short story a day, I can finish it within 12 days sort of thing. But this is the first collection of work, 15 short stories and novellas that invoke magical within the mundane, but turns profound, beguiling and heartbreaking. I heard this on a podcast that I listened to many years ago. I think it was called SFF Yeah by Book Riot. And I heard amazing things about it, and when I listened to that podcast I went into my local shop, The Warehouse, and they had it on the shelf. So it was like this sort of divine intervention of telling me that I need to buy this book, and I still haven't read it. So that was a few years ago, but I'm definitely planning on getting to this very soon, and if I don't, I have to unhaul it. The next book that I want to get to is Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan. I don't really know much about this, but I think this is a standalone story, if I can remember. So this is a 2021 release, and I don't think I've had it since 2021, but I've had it for a few years now. And this is in an empire on the brink of war, Anne is no one with no past and no family. Altan is a lost heir, his future stolen away as a child. When they meet, Altan sees in Anne a path to reclaiming the throne, while Anne sees a way to unlock her past and understand her lethal magic. But they will have to pay a far deadlier price than either could have imagined. Girls of Paper and Fire meets A Song of Rights and Ruin in June C.L. Tan's stunning debut, where ferocious action, shadowy intrigue, rich magic, and a captivating slow burn romance collide. So this sounds really interesting, and it is stunning, so I definitely want to get to this one. I've heard good things about this, so I'm very intrigued. Ooh, I didn't know that was in there. That's really pretty. The next one that I want to definitely read in 2025 is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the third book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. So I read Fourth Wing this year, absolutely loved it. I still need to read Iron Flame, but it's going to happen before the end of this year. If I have to read it over my holidays and just get it over and done with, stay up late one night and finish the whole thing, I will do that. But the third book in the Empyrean series, and I'm trying really hard to avoid Iron Flame spoilers, so I definitely need to get to that soon. I don't want to talk too much about it, but in Fourth Wing we're following our main character Violet. She has always been preparing to become a scribe and move into the scribe quadrant, but her mother has decided that she is going to become a dragon rider, even though she's never trained for it and isn't really prepared because she has a chronic illness that really affects her strength. So she is at a lot of danger here going into a dragon rider, so we're watching her move into that. The next one that I want to talk about is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This is a pen name for Shauna Maguire, and I absolutely love Shauna Maguire and her Wayward Children series and Middle Game. And so this is her sci-fi horror. She writes sci-fi horror kind of under Mira Grant, and then more fantasy under Shauna Maguire. But this is about 7 years ago, the Targetus set off on a voyage to the Mariana Trench to film a mockumentary bringing to life ancient sea creatures of legend. It was lost at sea with all hands. Some have called it a hoax, others have called it a tragedy. Now a new crew has been assembled, but this time they're not out to entertain. Some seek to validate their life's work, some seek the greatest hunt of all. Some seek the truth before the ambitious young scientist Victoria Stewart. This is a voyage to uncover the fate of a sister she lost. Whatever the truth may be, it will only be found below the waves. The secrets of the deep come with a price. So from what I know about this, we've got killer mermaids. That's all I need to know. The next one is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is massive, like over the last few years, everyone has been talking about this book on BookTube, so I definitely want to read it, and I do kind of own the whole series, so I definitely need to get to it. But this is a like cozy sci-fi from what I've heard. So when Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarer, she isn't expecting much. The Wayfarer, a patched up ship that's seen better days, offers her everything she could possibly want. A small quiet spot to call home for a while. Adventure in far off corners of the galaxy and distant from her troubled past. But Rosemary gets more than she bargained for with the Wayfarer. The crew is a mishmash of species and personalities, from Sixus, the friendly reptilian pilot, to Kizzy and Jenks, the constantly sparring engineers who keep the ship running. Life on board is chaotic but more or less peaceful, exactly what Rosemary wants. Until the crew are offered a job of a lifetime, the chance to build a hyperspace tunnel to a distant planet. They'll earn enough money to live comfortably for years. It does justify the long trip through war-torn space without endangering any of the fragile alliances that keep the galaxy peaceful. But Rosemary isn't the only person on board with secrets to hide, and the crew will soon discover that space may be vast, but spaceships are very small indeed. I've heard really great things about this, and I'm very, very excited, and I'll be sad to unhold this whole series if I don't read it in 2025. The next one is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I've pretty much read everything R.F. Kuang has written apart from this book. I think that's... and her new one that is coming out. Yes, so I've read the Poppy War series and I read Yellowface. So this is her dark academia fantasy novel where we're following an orphan who is orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious garden Robin Swift thought Babel a paradise, until it became a prison. But can a student stand against an empire? So this talks a lot about racism, about language, about colonization. It talks about stealing of culture appropriation, I think, and so much more. So I'm very intrigued about this one, although I have heard that the footnotes can be a bit annoying, so I'm intrigued to get to this one. So the next book that I want to talk about is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashadoust, and this is a Snow White retelling, or based on Snow White. So we've got 16-year-old Mina is motherless. Her magician father is vicious, and her silent heart has never beat with love for anyone. In fact, her heart has never beat at all, but she'd always thought that was normal. Mina never guessed that her father had cut out her heart and replaced it with one of glass. When she moves to White Spring Castle and sees its king for the first time, Mina forms a plan. Win the king's heart with her beauty, become queen, and finally know love. The only catch is that she'll have to become a stepmother. 15-year-old Lynette looks just like her late mother, and one day she discovers why. A magician created her out of snow in the dead queen's image at her father's orders. But despite being the dead queen made of flesh, Lynette would rather be like her fierce and regal stepmother, Mina. She gets her wish when her father takes Lynette queen of the southern territories, displacing Mina. Now Mina is starting to look at Lynette with something more like hatred, and Lynette must decide what to do, and who to be to win back the only mother she's ever known, or else defeat her. Only one can win all, while the other loses everything, unless they can find a way to reshape themselves and their story. So it sounds really interesting. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of complex relationships in here, so I'm very, very excited for this one. The next one is another really, really popular one on BookTube over the past few years, and that is The Dark Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. So I've read a couple of V.E. Schwab's books before, and this is another one that I have on my shelf. Thankfully I don't have the whole series, but I've heard that this is one of her best series. So this is about 4 like parallel universes, and there is different types of... We've got the red, black, blue, white and grey or something like that, and they have different types of magic. So Kel is one of the last travellers, magicians with the rare ability to travel between parallel universes connected by one magical city. There's Grey London, without magic, and ruled by the Mad King, George III. Red London, where magic is revered and where Kel was raised alongside the heir to an empire. White London, where people fight to control the remaining magic and magic fights back, and once there was Black London. So obviously Black London doesn't exist. So we're following this magician who is moving through different parallel universes. That's all I know about it, and I've heard amazing things about this series, so I'm very intrigued to continue with it. Another massively popular series across all bookish communities, booktube, book talk, bookstagram, is Flawless by Elsie Silver. So this is the Chestnut Spring series, and I was gifted this by Bessie, so massive thank you to Bessie for gifting this to me off my Amazon wishlist. But this is a cowboy romance, I think. So the rules were simple: keep my hands off his daughter, but now I'm stuck with her. There's only one bed, and well, rules are made to be broken. I'm the golden boy of professional bull riding, or at least I was until it all blew up in my face. Now my agent says I have to clean up my image, so I'm stuck with his bull-busting daughter for the rest of the season as my full-time supervision. But I don't need a goddamn babysitter, especially one with skin-tight jeans, a sexy smirk, and a mouth she can't stop running. A mouth I can't stop thinking about. She says this means nothing. I say this means everything. She says there are boundaries we shouldn't cross, that my reputation can't take any more hits, and neither can her damaged heart. I say I'm going to steal it anyway. So I'm very intrigued by this. I've heard really, really good things about it, and I think this is dual timeline, from what I can see, or dual perspective, which is very, very interesting. I've heard amazing things about this series, so I'm very intrigued to get into it. And speaking of cowboy romance, the next one on my list is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This is another really, really popular book at the moment, and I've heard great things about this and the whole series, to be fair. So this is brother's best friend, small town romance. For the first time in her life, Clementine, Emmy Ryder, has no idea what she's doing. She's accomplished everything on her to-do list. She left her small hometown of Meadowlark, Wyoming, went to college and made a career for herself by doing her favourite thing, riding horses. But after an accident makes it impossible for her to get back into the saddle, she has no choice but to return to the hometown she always wanted to escape. Luke Brooks is Meadowlark's most notorious bad boy, bar owner and bachelor. He's also the unofficial member of the Ryder family. As Emmy's older brother's best friend, Luke spent most of his childhood antagonizing her. It's been years since he's seen her, but when she walks into his bar and back into his life, he can't take his eyes off her. Against his better judgment, he wants to do a whole lot more than just look at her. As things between Emmy and Brooks heat up, it gets more difficult for him to keep his hands off of her. Can he help her get her spark back, or will they both go up in flames? So again, this sounds like a fun time. I'm definitely probably going to be doing a cowboy romance reading vlog at some point in the new year, so that will be very, very exciting. And I'm intrigued to get into these Unhaul romances that everyone is talking about, and this was gifted to me by the wonderful Kelsey, so massive thank you to Kelsey for buying both book 1 and book 2 of my wish list. The next book that I want to read is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. So I've read most of Ali Hazelwood's books. I read The Love Hypothesis, Bride, and the... what is it called? The other one, Love Theoretically, and I've given all of those books 5 stars, and I recently just read her Christmas novella short story that was just released, and all of them have been 5 stars. So I think I know now that Ali Hazelwood is a favourite author of mine, so I'm very intrigued to get to this one. So in this one, we're following a neuroengineering project. If NASA, B. Conning-Wasser lives by a simple code, what would Marie Curie do? If NASA offered her the lead on a neuroengineering project, a literal dream come true, Marie would accept without hesitation, duh. But the mother of modern physics never had to co-lead with Levi Ward. Sure, Levi is attractive in a tall, dark and piercing eyes kind of way, but Levi made his feelings towards Bee very clear in grad school. Arch enemies work best employed in their own galaxies far, far away. But when her equipment starts to go missing and the staff ignore her, Bee could swear she sees Levi softening into an ally, backing her plays, seconding her ideas, devouring her with his eyes. The possibilities have all her neurons firing, but when it comes time to actually make a move and put her heart on the line, there's only one question that matters. What will Bee Conning-Wasser do? Ooh, so this is another STEM romance, and I'm very, very excited for this one. Next one that I want to talk about is Girls of Paper Fire by Natasha Nyan. This is another really, really popular one back a couple of years ago, and in this one we're following our Each year, 8 beautiful girls are chosen as paper girls to serve the king. It's the highest honour they could hope for and the most demeaning. This year there's a ninth, and instead of paper, she's made of fire. So Lee is a member of the paper caste, the lowest and most persecuted class of people in Ikara. 10 years ago, her mother was snatched by the royal guards, and her fate remains unknown. Now the guards are back, and this time it's Lay they're after, the girl with the golden eyes, whose rumoured beauty has piqued the king's interest. Over weeks of training in the opulent but oppressive palace, Lee and 8 other girls learn the skills and charm that befit a king's consort. There, Lay does the unthinkable. She falls in love. A forbidden romance becomes enmeshed with an explosive plot that threatens her world's entire way of life. And Lee, still the wide-eyed country girl at heart, must decide how far she's willing to go for justice and revenge. So I've heard really, really great things about this, but it also has a lot of triggering content in here because they become the king's concubines, which means they basically get sexually assaulted by the king whenever he wants, because they don't agree to this, but they are forced into it because they are of a lower class to the king. The next one that I want to read is another very, very popular one, both within the fantasy genre and within BookTube many, many years ago. And we've got Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. So this is about a convent of sweet mercy girls that are raised to be killers. Some have inherited old bloods which bestow upon them special talents. Sweet Mercy hones its novices' skills with care. It takes 10 years to educate Red Sister in the deadly arts of blade and fist. So non-assassins sounds perfect, so I'm very, very intrigued, and I've heard really great things about Mark Lawrence, and I know that a lot of people do enjoy this series, so I'm very, very excited to get into it. The next one is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. I own another book of A.M. Strickland on the shelf, and I know that she writes a lot of LGBTQIA plus friendly stories, and I'm very intrigued. So Cammy was warned never to open the black door, but she didn't listen. Everyone has a soul. Some are beautiful gardens, others are frightening dungeons. Soul walkers like Cammy and her mother can journey into other people's souls while they sleep. But no matter where Cammy visits, she sees the black door. It follows her into every soul, and her mother has told her to never ever open it. When Cammy touches the door, it is warm and beating like it has a pulse. When she puts her ear to it, she hears her own name whispered from the other side. When tragedy strikes, Cammy does the unthinkable. She opens the door. So we're following Cammy as she opens the door and figures out what's on the other side. And I'm very intrigued about this. I did just see some really pretty drawings, so I'm very intrigued to see about this one. And we'll go from there. The next one is another one that was very, very popular many, many years ago. Can you sense a theme? I find books that were popular years ago, put them on my shelf, and then don't read them. So this is This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada. This is a really cool paperback edition with sprayed edges, and it's really cool because it actually sits on the page as well when you're reading it, which I think is really cool. So this is a zombie novel, I think. So when a lone soldier, Cole, arrives with news of Lachlan Agatha's death, all hope seems lost for Katerina. Her father was the world's leading geneticist and humanity's best hope of defeating a devastating virus. Then, hidden beneath Cole's gene-hacked enhancements, she finds a message of hope. Lachlan created a vaccine, but only she can find and decrypt it, if she can unravel the clues left for her. So that sounds really interesting. I've heard some good things about this, although not so many in recent years, but I am very, very intrigued. And the next one is a massive chunker, but it is from an author that I've read from before, and that is Jay Kristoff. So this is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This is his vampire story, where we're following Gabriel de Leon, half man, half monster, and last remaining Silver Saint, sworn brother of the Holy Silver Order, dedicated to defending the realm from creatures of the night, is all that stands between the world and its end. Imprisoned by the very monsters he is vowed to destroy, Gabriel is forced to tell his story. A story of legendary battles and forbidden love, of faith lost and friendships won, of the war of the blood and the forever king, and the quest for humanity's last remaining hope, the Holy Grail. I've heard great things about this, and I'm very, very excited, and I think I just saw another picture in here, which is Ooh, beautiful. I love this edition and I'm very intrigued to read this. I love J. Kristoff. I read his Nevernight series and I loved it. It's one of my favorite series of all time. So I'm very intrigued to sink my teeth into his next story. Another one that's been on my shelf for a long time is Deep Light by Frances Hardinge. I don't know anything about this, but I'm guessing that it has to do with the sea, because we've got Under the Sea with all these sea creatures. On the dumble streets of the island of Ladies Crave live Hark and his best friend Jelt. They are scavengers living off their wits, diving for relics of the gods, desperate for anything they can sell, but now there is something restless stirring beneath the waves, calling to someone brave enough to retrieve it. Something valuable, something dangerous. So that sounds really interesting. I haven't heard much about this one. Oh, that's a weird. Deep Light disclaimer: the laws of physics were harmed during the making of this book. In fact, I tortured them into horrific new shapes while cackling. That means you're going to have to suspend your disbelief, I think, while reading this one. But that sounds pretty interesting. But it's interestingly formatted. Like, the prologue chapter heading is like right up the top, so there's a lot more words to a page than normal. So that's very interesting. Okay. Next one that I picked up not that long ago is Made You Up by Francesca Zeppia. So I read one of Francesca's books many years ago. I think it was, what was it called? Eliza and Her Monsters. And this is one of her other books. So this is Made You Up. And these are YA stories that feature a lot of mental health struggles. And I really liked Eliza and Her Monsters, so I definitely wanted to pick this one up and give it a try. But this is armed with take no prisoners attitude, her camera a magic 8-ball, and her only ally her little sister. Alex fights a daily battle to decipher what is real and what is not. And after a really unfortunate incident, Alex is ready for a fresh start at a new school where no one recognizes her. Alex is used to being crazy. She's not prepared for normal. Before she knows it, she is making friends, going to parties, and falling in love. But Alex's inability to separate her delusions from reality is always just under the surface and could have disastrous consequences for the people closest to her. So this is, I think, a main character who is suffering from schizophrenia or actual delusions. So it's going to be a little bit of a harder read, but I'm very interested in checking this one out. The next one that I want to read is Fellside by M.R. Carey. Now I know that The Girl with All the Gifts is a zombie story, and I think this might be another zombie story. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's a thriller. I don't know, but I'm very intrigued. So Fellside is a maximum security prison on the edge of the Yorkshire moors. It's not the kind of place you want to end up, but it's where Jess Molson could be spending the rest of her life. It's a place where even the walls whisper, and one voice belongs to a little boy with a message for Jess. Will she listen? That sounds really intriguing, and it's been on my shelf for a long time, so I definitely want to pick it up ASAP or unhaul it. Another one that is really popular and well beloved is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I don't know much about this apart from, in this world, depending on the colour of your skin or the colour of your blood, depends on where you live within society. So this is a world divided by blood, red or silver. The Reds are commoners ruled by a silver elite in possession of godlike superpowers. And to 17-year-old Mare, a red girl from poverty-stricken stilts, it seems like nothing will ever change. But Mare possesses a deadly talent of her own, one that threatens to destroy the balance of power. Fearful of her potential, the Silvers hide Mare in plain view, declaring her the long-lost Silver Princess. Knowing that one false move will mean her death, Mare must use her new position to bring down the regime from the inside. Now Mare has entered a game of betrayal and lies. Ooh, that sounds really good. I don't know why I haven't picked this one up soon, but I need to. Okay, I need to read this. And the next book that I want to talk about is The Final Strife by Sarah Ella Rufi. I recently read Feybound by Sarah Ella Rufi and I absolutely loved it. So I'm very excited to pick up her other series that has just been completed. So this is about a set of trials held every 10 years to find the next ember rulers of the empire is about to begin. Shiloh was destined to win the trials stolen by blue-blooded rebels as an infant. She was raised with a duster's heart, forged as a weapon to bring down the empire from within. That bright future has turned to dust. But Shiloh wasn't made to sparkle. She was born to burn, and the trials draw nearer. It's time for her to decide. Will she rule the empire or destroy it? I've heard really, really great things about this, and I love Sarah L. Reeve's world building and writing, so I'm very intrigued to get to this one. Then we have a little bit of a different one. So this is Long Bright River by Liz Moore, and this is a thriller slash mystery where we're following a patrol officer who isn't able to find her sister, and she believes that her sister has died because there are murdered sex workers turning up on the avenue, and the chief of police is keen to bury the news. They're not the kind of victims that generate a whole lot of press anyway. So she is trying to find her sister, so she believes that her sister might be part of this murder spree or serial killer, and she is on a mission to find out what happened to her sister and find the killer of these sex workers, because I'm pretty sure her sister is a sex worker or is struggling with addiction. So I'm very intrigued about this one. We've got 3 more and then we're done with this video. The next one is Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. This is another fantasy romance that I've heard so many great things about, and I'm very, very excited to check this one out. So this is about Fortuna, and she is a nightmare, and I think that has something to do with she's able to provide like scare people with their nightmares or something, and she is the last of her kind. She hasn't been able to find her brother, and one day someone comes in and says, if you marry me, I'll help you find your brother. That's all I know. Yeah, so Fortuna Sworn is the last of her kind. Her brother has disappeared, leaving her alone. She hides among humans, spending her days working at a bar and her nights searching for him, until she catches the eye of a powerful fairy. Calleth desires Fortuna, and if she will bind herself to him, he offers something irresistible. So Fortuna leaves her safe existence behind and descends into a world of glamorous creatures and deadly power. She soon realizes it's not just her heart she has bargained with, but quite possibly her life. So I'm very intrigued by this one. And then we've got 2 classics just to round this out. We have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and this is a classic psychological thriller. So in this one we're following our main character who has just been swept up in a whirlwind romance, and she then moves to her husband's isolated Cornish estate, and something happens where her husband has started to change. He's become more than a stranger, and in every corner of every room is the phantom of his beautiful first wife, Rebecca, her memory kept alive by the sinister housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers. So I've heard really great things about this. It is quite gothic and it is quite creepy, and I've read a few retellings of Rebecca with other thriller stories, so I'm very intrigued to check this one out. And the last one is Dracula by Bram Stoker. So as a kid, I'm pretty sure I read this book, but it was way shorter than this, so I think it might have been an abridged version that was like made for children. But this is Dracula, the kind of beginning of vampire stories. And yeah. Jonathan Harker makes a terrifying discovery in Count Dracula's castle and is soon plunged into a nightmare. That's all I know about it. I'm very intrigued, and I want to actually see if when I read this, if anything sparks a memory, but we shall see. So that is the 25 books that I am planning on reading in 2025, and if I don't, I need to unhaul them. So make sure you check back if I do an update or if I talk about it at the end of the year next year, and you'll probably see some of these in an unhaul. Who knows? Make sure to like this video if you liked it, comment down below what you're planning to read in 2025, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Bye.